Hey there, everyone. So we're on to our ninth WFS Industry Award. Just three to go now as we reach the climax of WFS Live and that address from the FIFA General Secretary, Fatma Samora, which is coming up very, very soon. Make sure that you tell your friends and family that they can also watch this, even if they're not signed up to WFS Live. Do so via the Live Now Global tool. It's available on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And there's no time like the present. It's coming up in less than an hour's time. So make sure that you spread the word and let them know about that, because it should be just fascinating viewing to hear what the FIFA General Secretary has to say. So on we go then. And our ninth WFS Industry Award is another win for Germany, would you believe? This is for Best Executive in collaboration with Nolan Partners and won by Christian Seifert. Now, as the CEO of the DFL, Seifert led the Bundesliga's successful season restart, becoming the first elite football competition to return after the COVID-19 lockdown. And Christian was certainly suddenly more in the public eye. He was a man who was always asked all the questions at this point. He was leading the charge to try and return to the football pitch. He explained, he lobbied, he acted, and he set the standard for many others to follow. But his achievements actually extend much, much further back than just this year. And although he's stepping down from the role in 2022, Christian will leave behind a legacy of innovation, progress, and indeed, because of what's happened this year, crisis management as well. So it's many congratulations then to the CEO at the DFL, the Deutsche Fußballliga, Christian Seifert, and he will be speaking to the Group Managing Director at Nolan Partners, Paul Nolan. There they are, both of them. So many congratulations, Christian. I believe that you do have the award there with you. Would you mind showing it to the camera for all of our viewers to see as well, just to make sure that it has arrived with you safely?
Yeah, thank you, David. Hi, all out there. Here's the award. Here, Paul, thank you
There
very
it
much.
is.
Thank you
Beautiful.
very
We look
much.
forward to seeing it on a mantelpiece near you sometime soon. Paul,
Yeah.
over to you, please, for the
Normally it's standing
conversation.
next to my bed, you know.
Fantastic, fantastic. Paul, over to you.
Thank you, David, and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this session with Christian Seifert, as David said, CEO at the DFL. Christian, first and foremost, congratulations. Very well deserved to the award of Executive of the Year.
Thank you so much, Paul. I'm really happy about this award, and I'm happy to take it and to have it here with me. But in fact, it's an award for so many people working behind the scenes for weeks and months to make that happen. That we were able to come back on May 16 after an interruption of about 8 weeks, and the award, of course. Is a tribute to all of them, and it's an applause to all of them, and therefore I'm very happy to receive it. Thank you very much, Paul, for because you're presenting this award. Thank you very much to the jury. I'm really delighted about it. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, Christian, and thank you for agreeing to come and have a chat with us this afternoon. I'm sure that everybody else, just like me, is looking forward to hearing from you. And as much as I would love nothing more than to spend the next 20 minutes talking to you about German football, as its Executive of the Year, I thought it's probably more appropriate if we spent that time with a clear business focus. And the theme I wanted to explore with you this afternoon, Christian, is leadership. So should we get started?
I'm fine. Thank you. Let's start.
I think we'd all agree, a uniquely challenging year for football, a uniquely challenging year for the planet. In your role as CEO of the DFL, of all of those challenges, all of those leadership challenges that this pandemic has presented, what above all else has been the biggest?
Um, the biggest challenge, Paul, was in fact the complexity of this topic overall. Because when I got the call from the German health minister on the afternoon of March 8, and I was just sitting down together with my daughter to do some schoolwork, not for her but with her. And then I got a call from the German health minister, and he said, "Look, Christian, in a few minutes, I will recommend that there should be no events anymore with more than 1,000 people participating." That was March 8. And on Monday, we had a second league game, and which was already sold out. And of course, that meant that we will be asked what is going to happen there. And all of that, what happened between March 8 and May 16, when we were able to come back, was such a complex project management, and so many things I never faced before in my professional life, my team never faced before, that in fact the biggest challenge was to get an understanding about the different challenges in this big question. And I defined myself from the very beginning. After 48 hours, I defined myself 6 different work streams where we have to work on, and in none of them we were experienced, and handle that and keep the track. That was the biggest challenge so far. And of course, talking and dealing with topics which never had that weight and that meaning before, like medical protocols, talking with hygiene experts, more intense dialogue with top politicians than ever before, very intense dialogue with the clubs, but about topics like never before, and handling all of that in a parallel way, and preparing, by the way, the national TV tender of the national media rights, which we already also had timed with the worst timing ever in April. That was a pretty complex thing, I have to say.
And it's no doubt the biggest crisis and the biggest challenge any of us have had to face in our working lives. As a leader, Christian, how do you adapt your style to managing in a crisis such as that?
In fact, I adapted the style of management, Paul, but it came out of the situation and by itself, and not because I followed a big plan. Because I used to work with my management team here for more than 10 years right now, and we know each other very good. But in such a situation, more than ever, you have to trust yourself. You have to rely on the people, and they have to rely on you. You can only communicate in a very honest and open way, also towards the company. I mean, we are the DFL altogether has more than 400 people, and also there we're affected by the virus, and we're sitting at home. And aside of the fact that we are responsible for managing the Bundesliga, we should not forget that also the DFL itself is a small company with people working with their families at home, and they're not sure if they can keeping their jobs or whatever. So the communication was very intense, very open. From the very first day, I told also my team, look, I have absolutely no clue how we will manage it, but I know that we will make it from the very first day. And there's a very good book, The Mindful Athlete, it's called. And I was reading that again during that crisis, because I visualized myself from the very first day that I will hand over that trophy. I saw that, and following that idea, not in a sold out stadium, I have to say, and not that it will be Manuel Neuer from Bayern Munich, but I visualized from the very beginning that I will hand over that trophy. And then we were sitting together, talking a lot, communicated very open, and to be honest, just to accept in a world, and in a football world, who pretends that you are controlling the things all the time, and we're all A-type management people and whatever. But to accept that there are things out there you don't know, and that you don't know yet how to deal with in 4 or 6 days, but to have the sure understanding that you will somehow manage it. That really developed not only the project in the right direction, but I have also the feeling that I grew in this situation personally.
And of course, you had the eyes of the world upon you. In a way, you're used to that to a degree. Of course, you as CEO of the DFL and the Bundesliga, of course, there's a profile that naturally comes with that role. But I think I'm right in saying the Bundesliga was the first major league of any sport to restart again following the initial lockdown. And we're sitting all around the world. I know that the guys in our team in New York, in Los Angeles, were watching you and listening to you and reading about you. So you're having to do this under intense scrutiny like never before. Of course, you'd be used to that to some extent, but how does that global spotlight, what does that do in terms of impacting on your leadership style? First, were you aware of the global interest in this?
Yeah, I was a little aware of that. The awareness grew over time because with your colleague Chad in LA, I was sometimes also involved in some really exciting and very well organized leadership groups that you guys organized out there, and your colleague Chad was the moderator, and I was in there together with a lot of US people, US executives in sports, and I understood from their questions how close they're following what happens here. Then that came to my mind more and more with every week that the whole world is watching. But in fact, it doesn't influence me very much because I just had no time and energy to spend my focus on that. And it would not have changed anything, I have to say. My feeling was, and for every league executive, from time to time, you have a press conference, and every few years you make a big TV deal and whatever, because we're not like clubs and you go out there every week and talking about the next game. But as a league executive, normally you have 2 press conferences per year, or maybe 3 or whatever. But we had one every second week. Alone in Germany, if you add all the people watching, we saw that from time to time we had 2 million people watching, because next to the question, if the Lufthansa in Germany, the German airline, should get 6, 7, or 9 billion, the fact that if should the Bundesliga play, under what circumstances you can play, under what hygiene concepts should the Bundesliga play, or can the Bundesliga play, was a really big question in the media, and therefore that changed definitively the work for me as a CEO. But again, you have to work on that, and personally, I have the feeling that it was a big challenge. But together with my team, with the support of the board, with the support of the clubs, we were able to manage it. And it's a little bit like if you knew the movie The Gladiator, when Russell Crowe said, when he stands in that arena, whatever comes out of these gates, we have a better chance to survive if we work together. And if you have that feeling that you really work together, this gives you an enormous strength and power and belief that this will all work out. And finally, it worked out, and that was great. And in the moment we started to play, I could easily miss these press conferences because I didn't make them to get more awareness in the media. I made them because it was what had to be done in these days.
And of course, you touched on earlier the range of interested parties and people, and the range of stakeholders that I guess typically in the course of your role you wouldn't normally need to guide and influence and lead. So I guess you're talking about your teams and your team at the DFL. But I remember sitting at home and I saw Angela Merkel commenting on your restart. So I can only imagine, you did allude to it earlier, the range of now all of a sudden brand new stakeholders across the whole country and across all of Europe that now, of course, are interested and looking for guidance. I mean, that must have had some impact.
Yeah. I didn't sure if I got the last sentence. You're talking about the number of stakeholders to talk with, isn't it?
Yeah.
In fact, that was a pretty exciting time, to be honest, because as you said, I mean, never before I talked to virologists. Is that the name in English? Virologists, or with so much about hygiene protocols, and the guy who wrote this famous medical concept was the doctor of the German national team, Professor Tim Meyer, together with a small team. But also we set it up, a consortium of 5 medical laboratory chains in Germany, so that we are able to control the testing, the testing protocol, and of course I had to deal with a lot of people in politics, because given the federal situation in Germany with different federal states, you have one health minister, but responsibility for a lot of things are lying in the different regions of Germany. So I also had to talk with different governors, you can say, governors of states, or federal or prime ministers of the states. And of course, that was, to be honest, that was also somehow a real enhancement of the job, because after 15 years in that job, you experienced a lot, and you have some experiences in many fields of running a sports league. But that was pretty new to me, and when it was over and it worked out, I find this time pretty exciting. When I was inside, I find it very, so, but overall it's fine. I get great awards. I make good interviews, and as I said, it was a very exciting time, and especially that I went through it with so many strong and good and supporting people. That was a very special time, and I'm sure I will never forget this.
And what about the fact that with lockdowns all around the world, we're doing this remotely? I mean, what advice would you give to young, aspiring leaders about leading, not just leading in a crisis, but leading remotely? We never have to done that before. We go to work every day. We go in the office. We see our guys. We can communicate with them. We're face to face. What advice would you give? What have you learned?
I think if you have a long and trusted relationship, and you know each other for years, like we both know, then it's easier to do this on a let's say on a virtual base. But in fact, what really paid out, especially when it comes to the virtual communication level, what really paid out, that I already had a relationship with many people. And I trusted them, they trusted me. You cannot talk from one day to another to a German minister, very open about the situation, and you never talked with him before.
Yeah, sure.
And therefore, the advice I would really give the people out there, I don't myself, or I don't see myself in an advisor or teacher or something like that. But I learned how important it is to build relationship to people in the real world, because then you have also strong relationships in the virtual world. And I would give the advice: don't rely too much on the virtual relationship management building. It's right now the time, I understand, but as soon as possible, meet people, build a relationship, because it's a different thing to sit with someone in the office, to see his office, to see how he's dealing with people, with his colleagues, the atmosphere. This is something which has to grow. And once the trust is grown, then you can easier deal also in a virtual world. But don't underestimate the meaning of real and personal relationship.
Yeah, well said. David, have we got time for one more question?
Oh, do you know what, Paul? I'm really sorry. I'm afraid we don't. But I think we got an awful lot from what Christian was saying there, and I think it's a really good point to end on. Look, we are where we are because of coronavirus, and that has accelerated a lot of things in the virtual world and technology, etc. And that's great. But I suppose there's nothing really that replaces that authentic human contact, and still, when you're in the same room with someone, you're around the same table, you can obviously read the signs a little bit more, get into what they're like, get into their culture, their habits, their customs, etc. It's such an important part of doing business and in leading an organization like yourselves. I mean, listen, I think you've been such an exemplary leader in such a difficult time. This is test so many things for you, Christian, but you passed the test with flying colours, and you are the winner of the Best Executive Award, as we mentioned before. So thank you very much indeed. Many congratulations, Christian. Many thanks to Paul Nolan as well. So we're making very good progress indeed. We are just heading to the last two awards, and then our address from the FIFA General Secretary, Fatma Samura. We are going to be going to Best Male and Best Female Player, two big awards, two new awards for us here at World Football Summit, and that's coming up next.